I was wrong. Please, take me back.
I think I deserve better.
She told me she wanted a divorce on a Tuesday evening, right after I walked through the door from a 12-hour delivery shift. I had been married to Diana for 7 years. 7 years of waking up before dawn, strapping on a helmet, and weaving through traffic on a scooter so she could have the life she wanted. New handbags whenever she pointed at one. Dinners at restaurants where I could barely afford the tip. Bills, rent, groceries, everything that keeps a life running, all on me. I never once complained because I loved her and because I was fool enough to believe she felt the same. That evening, she did not even wait for me to set down my bag. She had been seeing a man named Marcus. When I found out and confronted her, she did not apologize. She attacked. Told me our marriage did not mean she had sold her body to me, that she could be with whoever she wanted, that it was none of my business. Then, she said the word that shattered 7 years in a single breath: divorce. Because I suffocated her. Suffocate. I had spent 7 years suffocating myself on the back of a delivery scooter in rain and blistering heat and freezing cold, all so she could live comfortably. And somehow, I was the one doing the suffocating. I snapped, reminded her of every sacrifice, every late-night delivery, every paycheck I handed over without keeping a dollar for myself, every plan I shelved so she could chase hers. She did not flinch, said it was all my choice, that nobody forced me. Marcus was standing right there, arms crossed, leaning against the doorframe, looking at me the way you look at something stuck to the bottom of your shoe. He told me no woman on earth would ever want a delivery driver. Diana laughed and said that without her, I was nothing. Something cracked open inside my chest. Not the kind of breaking where everything collapses, the kind where light pours in. I told them both I would leave with nothing, not a single dollar, not a piece of furniture. I would shed every last thread that connected me to this woman and walk out clean. Then I looked Diana dead in the eyes and told her I would make her watch exactly what kind of man she had just thrown away. They laughed. I did not. I walked out of that apartment with the clothes on my back and a phone running on fumes. No savings. She had taken everything in the divorce. No car, no home, nothing but a delivery scooter parked at the curb, and 7 years of wasted loyalty sitting like a stone in my gut. That is when the system found me. I cannot explain it in a way that makes sense. One moment I was standing on the sidewalk with nothing, and the next, something switched on inside my head. A presence, sharp and precise, forming words I knew were not my own. 3 phrases, each one landing like a bell struck in an empty cathedral. Perfect life system. Binding complete. Starter package activated. $100,000 deposited. I nearly dropped my phone pulling it from my pocket, but the notification was there, real as the concrete under my feet. $100,000 in an account that had been completely empty 5 minutes ago. The system was not done. It detected a health risk, unlocked something it called a fitness mission. The terms were simple. For every hour I spent working out, it would deposit $1 million into my account. $1 million per hour for exercising. I stood on that dark sidewalk and laughed. Not because it was funny, because the universe had just handed me the most absurd second chance in the history of second chances. And what else do you do with that except laugh and say yes? I charged my phone at the nearest station and started searching for gyms. Grandview Fitness was a 20-minute scooter ride away. High ceilings, polished hardwood floors, top-of-the-line equipment gleaming under track lighting. The kind of place where everyone looked like they spent their mornings choosing between protein brands, not racing across the city with takeout strapped to their backs. I walked through the glass doors still wearing my delivery jacket, and I felt every pair of eyes in the lobby measure me and find me lacking. Tina, the receptionist, barely glanced up from her phone. She looked me over once, head to toe, and told me she was too busy to give me a tour. Did not ask what I wanted, did not offer a brochure, just dismissed me in half a second flat because my clothes told her everything she needed to know. Then a voice came from behind the front desk. "I will show you around." A woman stepped forward, athletic build, easy smile, ponytail pulled tight. "I am Sarah. I am a trainer here. Anything you want to know, just ask me." She walked past Tina without even looking at her. Tina hissed something about wasting time on a charity case, loud enough for the whole lobby to hear. She asked Sarah why she would bother with someone who obviously could not afford a bottle of water, let alone a membership. called me a broke delivery driver who had no business setting foot in a place like Grandview. Sarah did not acknowledge her. She just smiled at me and gestured toward the training floor. That small act of basic decency from a total stranger hit harder than I expected. The system chimed. A new mission crystallized in my mind. Spend big, right here, right now. Put the snob in her place. Reward, 10 times cash back on whatever I spent. 10 times. I did not even have to think about it. Set me up with an annual membership and $100,000 of personal training, I said. With you as my trainer. Sarah stopped mid-step. She turned around slowly. 100,000? Her eyebrows climbed her forehead. That is over 300 sessions. You really do not have to commit to that many right away. I am sure. Run the card. The lobby went quiet. Tina's head snapped up from her phone. Every staff member within earshot froze. $100,000 at a gym counter, spoken by a man in a delivery jacket. Nobody knew what to do with that information. Sarah processed the payment. While the machine worked, she told me she would waive my annual fee, throw in 100 bonus sessions free of charge, and take me to dinner as a proper thank you. She meant it. Not the practiced gratitude of a salesperson, but the real kind that comes from someone who just had their faith in people rewarded. The terminal was still printing the receipt when Diana walked in, because of course she did. She was with Marcus. They had come to this exact gym to sign up. Marcus was talking about buying 50 training sessions. Diana told him her monthly budget was tight. Then her eyes landed on me. Marcus spoke first. He announced to anyone listening that my card was probably empty, that this whole performance was theater, and that I should crawl out before I embarrassed myself any further. A woman with them pointed at me and called me the useless ex-husband who had apparently lost his mind. Diana shook her head and told the room she doubted I could scrape together $100, let alone $100,000. The payment terminal beeped. $100,000. Confirmed. The gym went dead silent. Marcus's jaw tightened. Diana's expression cycled through confusion, shock, and something she was trying hard to disguise as anger, but looked a lot like the first hairline crack of regret. Their friend just stood there, mouth half open, searching for something clever to say, and finding nothing. Diana recovered fast. She demanded to know where the money came from. She had taken everything in the divorce, the apartment, the savings, all of it. After debts, I should have been left with nothing. She did not ask for an explanation. She ordered one, like she still had authority over my life. Sarah stepped forward. He is a valued client. Her voice was calm, but left no room for negotiation. Whatever your history, he does not owe you a thing. The staff called security. Someone reminded Diana that harassing customers was a legal matter, and that every camera in the building was recording. Marcus grabbed her arm and muttered that the situation was more complicated than they had realized, that they should leave before things escalated. Diana fought him the whole way, furious, baffled, unable to reconcile the man she had thrown away with the man who had just dropped $100,000 without blinking. They left, and something that had been coiled tight inside my chest for 7 years loosened. Not all the way, but enough to let me breathe. The system chimed one final time. Mission complete. 10 times cashback. My phone buzzed. I looked at the screen. Deposit received. $1 million. I stared at the number until the screen dimmed. $1 million. 1 hour ago, I had walked out of my marriage with absolutely nothing. Now, I had more money than I had earned in my entire career combined. Behind the front desk, Tina's voice cracked as she talked to a coworker. She had thrown away a $30,000 commission because she had decided in 2 seconds that a man in a cheap jacket was not worth her time. Her coworker asked what happened. Tina just exhaled, long, shaking, and whispered something I could not quite hear, but I did not need to hear it. I already knew. Ready to start your first session? Sarah tapped my shoulder, towel draped over her arm. I nodded. She led me to the weight floor and spent the next hour walking me through every exercise with the kind of patience that makes you want to work harder just to deserve it. No mention of the money, no mention of Diana, just a good coach doing her job well, and a man learning what it felt like to invest in himself for the first time in 7 years. The session burned. Every set found muscles I did not know existed. Sarah adjusted my form with careful hands, counted my reps out loud, and told me when to push and when to rest. She never rushed. She never checked the clock. When the hour ended, I was dripping sweat, arms shaking, lungs on fire. But underneath the exhaustion was something I had not felt in a very long time. Purpose. The system was real. The money was real. And for the first time since Diana had torn my life apart, I had something she could never take from me again. A second chance. And I was not going to waste this one on anyone who did not deserve it. The next morning, I settled into what would become my new routine. 2 hours at Grandview, pushing through every exercise Sarah had taught me. And when the session ended, the system deposited another $2 million into my account. Just like that. Millions for sweating. The system had a new mission waiting. Give Sarah a gift that genuinely makes her happy. The reward, a top-spec Mercedes G-Wagon, fully paid, waiting at the dealership whenever I was ready. A luxury car for buying someone a present. I was beginning to understand the system's logic. Take care of the people who treat you right, and the rewards take care of themselves. But I could not just hand Sarah an expensive gift out of nowhere. We had known each other for a day. That would come off wrong, so I came up with something. After training, I wiped my face with a towel and mentioned that my younger sister had a birthday coming up. Told her I needed help picking a gift. Sarah's eyes lit up. Girls always love designer bags, especially someone just starting their career. She slung her towel over her shoulder. Something practical but elegant. The kind of thing that makes you feel like you have made it, even when you are still figuring things out. We went to a boutique downtown. Sarah walked straight to a bag in cream white, ran her fingers along the stitching, and told me it would be perfect for a younger sister. She knew exactly what she was looking at, and she knew exactly what it cost, and I caught the tiny flicker of longing she snuffed out before she thought I would notice. I told the clerk to wrap 2. Sarah turned. 2? 1 for my sister, 1 for you. Before she could argue, a voice sliced across the store. One of Diana's friends, I did not even know this woman's name, had spotted me and immediately announced to everyone within earshot that I was a broke delivery driver who could not afford the air inside this building, let alone 2 designer bags at $56,000 each. She told the staff to stop wasting their time. The terminal beeped. $112,000. Approved. The clerk handed me the bags and the receipt. Diana's friend stood there, jaw slack, searching for a comeback that was not going to arrive. Behind her, Marcus was mumbling excuses to his own girlfriend, who was now furious he had not bought her anything comparable. He claimed a work emergency and practically sprinted for the exit. I held the cream bag out to Sarah. She took it with both hands and held it against her chest. This is too much. Her voice was quiet. I have only known you for a day. You treated me like a person when everyone else treated me like trash. That is worth more than a bag. I let go. I do not take gifts back. She looked at me for a long moment, eyes steady, jaw set, like she was deciding something important. Then she straightened up. If you ever need anything at all, you just ask. I will be there. The system confirmed the mission. Reward unlocked. 1 Mercedes G-Wagon, top spec, ready for collection at the Riverside Drive dealership. The dealership gleamed like a temple to everything I had never been able to afford. Floor-to-ceiling glass, luxury cars displayed like sculptures under spotlights, and standing right there in the showroom, staring at a jet black G-Wagon like it had dropped from another planet, was Hannah, my ex-sister-in-law, Diana's younger sister. She had just started an internship here. She was with her best friend Grace, both of them doing the math on a price tag neither of them could imagine earning in a decade. Hannah spotted me and froze. She still called me brother-in-law. She had always called me that. Even after the divorce, she refused to stop, because to her, the title was not about paperwork. It was about the man who had helped pay for her high school and college when her own family would not bother. She started asking what I was doing at a Mercedes dealership, but the showroom manager appeared before she could finish. He greeted me by name, confirmed that my G-Wagon was being shipped from headquarters and would arrive first thing tomorrow, and ushered me toward the VIP suite. Grace grabbed Hannah's arm. That car costs more than we will see in a lifetime, she whispered, loud enough for the entire showroom to hear. I reached into the bag and pulled out the designer handbag. Happy early birthday. Hannah opened the box. Grace looked up the price on her phone and announced the number at full volume. room. Hannah's coworkers started buzzing. One of them told her she was the luckiest girl alive. Another said something that turned Hannah's cheeks bright red. She looked at me with an expression I had not seen from anyone in a long time. Gratitude, sure, but underneath it, relief. She had been worried about me since the divorce, genuinely worried, and now she could finally exhale. Things turned around, I told her. I will explain when there is time. Your birthday is coming up. I will be there. That evening, a woman named Emily reached out to me. She was a fitness influencer with a serious following, polished content, professional editing, the kind of creator who turned gym clips into something 500,000 people watched before breakfast. She had noticed me at Grandview and had an idea. The system chimed before she even finished her pitch. New mission: register a social media account. Reward: $20 for every new follower, $20 per like, no ceiling. Emily's concept was sharp. A daily account built around two things: my fitness progress and glimpses of the lifestyle I was building. The car, the spending, the transformation from delivery driver to someone the algorithm could not ignore. She would handle filming and editing. I just had to show up and be myself. I said yes. She had a full production plan ready by the next morning. The first video dropped that afternoon. By midnight, it had crossed 50,000 followers and 500,000 likes. The system tallied the rewards between the social media earnings, the gym deposits, and the mission payouts. I had made more in a single day than I had earned in my entire previous career. My account balance sat at $2,880,000, and it was still climbing. Diana, predictably, could not leave it alone. She and Marcus had spent the evening constructing a theory. The gym membership, the bags, the money, all loans, borrowed cash. A desperate man maxing out his credit to create the illusion of success. She told her friends I had destroyed my own credit rating just to play pretend, and she promised to come to Grandview the next morning and expose me in front of everyone. She kept her promise. I was mid-set on the bench press when she stormed through the entrance with Marcus behind her. She announced to the entire lobby that I was a fraud, a broke delivery driver playing dress up with borrowed money. Marcus backed her up, told me to drop the act and kneel. One of their friends loudly declared she would kneel and apologize in front of everyone if I turned out to be genuinely wealthy. I wiped the sweat off my forehead and waited. Emily stepped out from behind her camera rig. He has more than enough money. Her voice was calm, but carried across the lobby without effort. I have seen the accounts myself. You should leave before this gets embarrassing. Diana's side immediately called her a hired actress. Marcus said no real influencer would associate with a delivery driver. I pulled out my phone, opened my bank account, and held the screen up. $2,880,000. Right there. The laughter stopped. Diana scrambled for an explanation, said I must have borrowed it from every delivery driver I knew, that the screenshot was doctored, that none of this was real. Then a horn sounded outside. A dealership driver pulled up to the front entrance of Grandview in a jet black Mercedes G-Wagon, top spec, brand new. He stepped out, walked into the lobby, and handed me the keys, the registration, and the full purchase contract. Every page stamped and signed. Full cash payment. No loans, no leasing. Mine. The gym went silent. Diana tried once more, said I must have rented it. The driver showed her the ownership papers with my name across the top. Her lips moved, but nothing came out. Marcus took her arm and pulled her toward the door, muttering that they should leave, that things had gotten out of hand. Sarah stepped forward and told them both that if they came back to harass me again, the staff would file a report. Security held the door open. They left. Emily leaned against the hood of the G-Wagon and grinned. That entire thing was caught on camera. This content is going to break the internet. She was not wrong. The edited clip, faces blurred, names removed, but the drama intact, hit the account that evening. 200,000 likes, 28,000 new followers overnight. I stood in that parking lot, leaned against a car I never would have dreamed of owning 2 days ago, and watched the notifications roll in. The system kept chiming. Follower rewards, mission bonuses, stacking on top of each other faster than I could read them. 2 days ago, I had walked out of a marriage with nothing. Now I had money in the bank, a car in the lot, a business partner who knew how to turn my life into content, and people around me, Sarah, Hannah, Emily, who had chosen to stand in my corner when they had every reason not to. Diana had told me no one would ever want me. She was wrong about a lot of things, but she was most wrong about that. Sarah was off that day. Not physically, she still showed up, still ran me through the exercises, but her mind was somewhere else entirely. She kept losing focus mid-set, staring at nothing, snapping back with an apology and a forced smile. I asked her what was wrong. She hesitated. Then she told me about Jenny. Jenny was a college roommate, the kind who measured everything in life as a competition and had decided early on that Sarah was the scoreboard. After graduation, Jenny had landed a boyfriend with money, a man named Brad, and now she was throwing a housewarming party at a villa he had rented in Parkview Estate, the most exclusive neighborhood in the city, the kind of place where security checked your ID 3 times before you even reached the gate. Jenny had personally invited Sarah, which meant only one thing. She wanted an audience for her bragging. I know exactly what is coming. Sarah wrung the towel between her hands. An entire evening of her pointing at expensive things and asking if I have anything comparable. The system chimed. New mission. Help Sarah hold her own tonight. Reward. Villa number 1 at Parkview Estate. Purchased, paid, deed in my name. Villa number 1. In a neighborhood where the lower the number, the higher the status. Jenny's boyfriend rented number 79. What time does she pick you up? 5:30, she blinked. Why? I will be there at 5:25. Jenny arrived right on time, pulling up in Brad's sedan and stepping out like she was walking a red carpet. She looked Sarah up and down the way a jeweler examines a flawed stone, noted the lack of designer clothes, pointed out that Sarah's bag was a cheap brand, laughed and called it a joke. Then Jenny started on the car, told Sarah to appreciate the leather seats, the sound system, the fact that this vehicle cost more than most people made in 5 years. She asked Sarah if her boyfriend had a car. Sarah told her he did. Jenny asked what kind. I pulled up in the G-Wagon. The look on Jenny's face went through 3 stages: surprise, confusion, and then a hard calculation as she tried to figure out how Sarah had a man who drove a car like that. Brad leaned over from the passenger seat and whispered something that settled Jenny down. He had a plan. His rented villa would speak for itself. Nobody could fake that. That was Brad's theory, at least. We drove through the estate gates. Security waved Brad through, and he made sure Sarah noticed. Jenny launched into a guided tour before we even parked, pointed out the private patrols, the biometric gates, the camera coverage. She pointed at the streetlights and said each one cost more than most cars. She pointed at the landscaping and said every tree had been selected by a professional designer. Brad delivered the punchline he had been building toward all evening. He explained that in Parkview Estate, the villa numbers were a ranking system. The lower the number, the more powerful the owner. The single digits belonged to the most influential figures in the entire city. His villa was number 79, rented, not owned. And even getting a rental here required connections most people could only dream about. Jenny backed him up, said the day Brad could actually buy one of these villas would be the day he had truly made it. I listened to all of it without saying a word. Then my phone rang. I stepped away and answered. The estate manager introduced herself. Her tone made it clear she did not call residents directly unless it mattered. She told me the paperwork for my villa was ready. The deed, the contracts, everything. She asked where she should deliver them. I told her I was at Villa 79. 5 minutes later, a black sedan pulled up. The estate manager stepped out in a tailored suit, carrying a leather folder under her arm. Brad saw her first. His face lit up. The estate manager, here in person, at his villa. He assumed she was there for him. He started walking toward her with his chest puffed out, already rehearsing his line. She walked straight past him. She stopped in front of me, extended her hand, and introduced herself formally. Then she opened the folder and presented me with the property deed, the purchase contract, and the keys to Villa number 1. Number 1, the most prestigious address in the entire estate, not rented, owned outright. Brad's face collapsed. Jenny grabbed his arm and hissed something about him telling her I was a delivery driver. Brad stammered that he might have been mistaken. The estate manager gave them a look that said she had heard enough, handed me her card, and told me to call anytime I needed anything. Brad turned to me after she left. The swagger was gone, replaced by something closer to panic. He apologized, said he had not realized who I was, that everything he had said was out of ignorance, that he had been showing off about a rented villa in front of a man who owned the crown jewel of the neighborhood. I told him to stop wasting time trying to impress people and to treat the woman standing next to him with more respect. He nodded so fast his head blurred. Jenny tried a different approach. With Brad's humiliation still fresh, she pivoted without shame, started complimenting me, said she had been wrong, asked if I might be interested in getting to know her better. I looked at her and told her that watching someone abandon their loyalty the second they smelled money was not an attractive quality. I said that a person who could discard her own boyfriend and her own friend in the same breath, right in front of both of them, did not belong anywhere near my life. And I told her to take a long look in the mirror when she got home, because what I had just witnessed was a kind of ugliness no amount of designer clothing could cover. Jenny stood there, mouth open, face red, completely disarmed. Brad stared at the floor. Neither of them said another word. Sarah and I walked out of that villa and got back in the car. She was quiet for a while. Then she turned to me with an expression I had not seen from her before. Not gratitude. She had shown me plenty of that already. Something deeper, like a door had opened that she had not expected to find. "You did not have to do any of that," she said. "Yeah, I did." She smiled. "The real kind. The kind that reaches the eyes and stays there." We stopped for dinner on the way home. Nothing fancy. A small place with good food and no dress code. Sarah ordered for both of us, and for the first time since I had met her, she looked completely at ease. The evening ended quietly. No fireworks, no drama. Just two people sitting across from each other, eating well, talking about nothing important, and feeling like the world had gotten a little bit fairer. That was enough. Kyle called me on a Wednesday morning, and the worry in his voice made it clear he had been holding it in for a while. Kyle was my oldest friend. We had grown up in the same village, worked our way through the same dead-end jobs, and when my marriage fell apart, he was the first person to check on me. He had heard about the divorce, heard I walked out with nothing, and he assumed I was spiraling. He told me to meet him for lunch, said he had booked a table at the Pinnacle Lounge, the most exclusive restaurant in Riverside City. His treat. He wanted to help me blow off steam and feel like a human being for one afternoon. The system had other ideas. A new mission appeared. Show Kyle that you are doing well. Let him see it with his own eyes. Reward: full acquisition of Gold Point Investment Group, a $350 million firm, purchased and transferred to my name, an entire investment company, for taking my best friend to lunch. The Pinnacle Lounge was everything its reputation promised. Vaulted ceilings, dark wood paneling, waitstaff in pressed uniforms, and a hostess at the front desk who looked at Kyle's reservation and smiled, until she looked at me. Her name was Crystal. We had gone to the same university years ago, and even back then, she had a talent for making people feel small. When she heard I had become a delivery driver after graduation, whatever thin thread of respect she might have had snapped clean. She told me, with the kind of smile that is not really a smile, that the Pinnacle Lounge was not the kind of place that welcomed people like me, that the minimum spend was more than I probably earned in a month, that I should leave before I embarrassed myself and my friend. Kyle started to argue, but I put a hand on his arm. "Get your boss." Crystal laughed, told me the owner would not waste her time on a delivery driver, threatened to call security. A voice cut through the lobby from the back hallway, clear, authoritative, and deeply unimpressed. "What is going on out here?" Flora, the owner of the Pinnacle Lounge and one of the most connected people in the city. She was a woman who had built her reputation on two things: impeccable hospitality and zero tolerance for staff who forgot it. Crystal tried to explain, said I was causing trouble, that I was clearly out of my league, that she was protecting the restaurant's image. Flora shut her down in 3 words. "He is a guest." She turned to us, apologized for the rudeness, ordered Crystal to apologize as well, and personally escorted us to the best private room in the building. Crystal mumbled a sorry through clenched teeth. Flora noticed. The room Flora put us in was ridiculous. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the river, a table that could seat 12, a menu with no prices printed on it. Flora told the kitchen to send out the best of everything, on the house. Before she left, she handed me her card, said if I ever needed anything in this city, I should call her directly. Her name carried weight, and she was happy to extend that weight to someone who conducted himself the way I did. Kyle waited until the door closed before he grabbed my arm. "What is happening right now?" His eyes were wide. "You walked out of your marriage with nothing." I told him the version he could handle, said I had gotten into investing after the divorce, that things had gone well, that I was doing better than he thought. Kyle studied my face for a long time. Then he exhaled, slow and heavy, and the tension he had been carrying since he picked up the phone that morning drained out of his shoulders. "You know I was ready to lend you money, right?" He shook his head. "Had a whole speech prepared. I know. You are really okay?" "I am really okay," he grinned. The kind that comes from genuine relief, not politeness. We ate well that afternoon, talked about nothing important, and laughed the way we used to before life got complicated. When the bill came, I paid without blinking. The system confirmed the mission that night. Gold Point Investment Group. Purchased. Fully transferred. I would receive a call in the morning to arrange the handover. That call came at 9 sharp. A man named Lawrence, polite and professional, confirmed that the acquisition was complete and asked when I could come for the formal transition. I drove over immediately. Gold Point's offices were clean, modern, and busy. 2 floors of analysts, traders, and administrative staff who had no idea their company had just changed hands. And standing in the lobby, wearing a visitor badge and looking like she had not slept in a week, was Hannah. I had forgotten. Gold Point was where she worked, her internship. She saw me and her face went through the same confusion it always did, trying to reconcile the brother-in-law she remembered with the man standing in front of her. She started to ask what I was doing there, but a voice barked across the floor. Roger, her supervisor, a mid-level manager with a corner office, and the kind of petty authority that ruins people. He snapped at Hannah for standing around chatting instead of working, told her if she did not change her attitude, she could forget about ever being promoted. Hannah flinched. The kind of flinch that comes from repetition. I asked Grace later what the full story was. Grace told me everything. Roger had been targeting Hannah since her first day. He wanted something from her she would not give, a personal arrangement off the books. When Hannah refused, he made her work life a living hell, piled the hardest assignments on her desk, scheduled overtime every night. And when the one permanent position opened up, he gave it to another intern who had agreed to his terms. That morning, Roger stood in front of the entire intern team and announced the promotion. He praised the other intern's attitude, her willingness to go above and beyond. Then he turned to Hannah and told her, in front of everyone, that hard work alone was not enough, that she needed to learn to listen to her superiors. Hannah lost it. She stood up and told him exactly what she thought of him, called out every late night, every unfair assignment, every time he had punished her for saying no. She said the promotion was not earned, it was bought, and everyone in the room knew the currency. Roger called security. 3 guards were closing in on Hannah when I walked through the door. Roger was screaming for them to drag her out. Hannah was standing her ground, but she was shaking, small and outnumbered, and about 3 seconds from losing everything. I stepped between her and the guards. Roger did not recognize me. He told the guards to remove me too, said this was an internal matter, threatened to have us both arrested. Hannah grabbed my arm. "We should go," she whispered. "It is not worth it. Stay behind me." Roger was still shouting orders when the elevator opened and Lawrence stepped out, the previous owner. He walked across the floor, stopped in front of Roger, and told him to shut his mouth. Then he turned to the room and made an announcement. Gold Point Investment Group had been acquired, fully, completely. The man standing next to Hannah, the man Roger had just tried to throw out, was the new owner. The office went dead silent. Roger's face drained of color. The guards took 3 rapid steps backward. I fired Roger on the spot, told him his employment was terminated, and that legal would be following up on the hostile environment he had created. I fired the other intern too. Roger tried to argue, said he had been with the company for years. I told him that using a promotion to coerce a young woman was not a misunderstanding. It was the kind of thing that ended careers and started lawsuits. He went white and stopped talking. Lawrence handled the paperwork. Within the hour, Roger was escorted out of the building. I made one more announcement before leaving the floor. Effective immediately, Hannah was promoted to executive secretary, reporting directly to me. She pulled me into the hallway afterward. She looked caught between laughing and crying. "How?" Her voice cracked. "How is any of this real?" Long story. I loosened my tie. "But right now, I need you to do something. Go to the trading floor and tell them to put everything we have into gold futures. Full position, maximum leverage." She stared at me. "Everything? That is the entire company's capital. If it goes wrong, it will not go wrong." She searched my face for a few seconds. Then she nodded, turned on her heel, and walked toward the trading floor with the kind of purpose I had not seen from her before. The gold futures play was about to begin, and if the system's investment skill was as sharp as everything else it had given me, Gold Point was about to make history. Every person in that trading room thought I had lost my mind. Victoria, The head of the investment division was the most vocal. She was brilliant, one of the sharpest analysts in the city, with a track record that spoke for itself. When she heard my order, full position, maximum leverage, all of it on gold futures, she walked into my office, closed the door, and told me I was about to bankrupt the company. She laid out her case. International conditions were stable. There was no catalyst for a gold surge. Putting the firm's entire capital on a single leveraged position was not bold. It was reckless. I told her to execute the order. She pushed back hard, said she would stake her reputation on gold not moving. I looked at her and proposed a wager. If I was right, she would accept my authority on every investment decision going forward. No arguments, no second guessing. If she was right, I would step back from the trading side and let her run it. She agreed without hesitation. Hannah was standing in the doorway, pale-faced. "Are you sure?" she whispered. "I am sure." The order went through. $500 million, fully leveraged, all on gold. For 3 hours, nothing happened. Victoria sat at her desk with her arms crossed, watching the ticker with quiet confidence. The floor hummed with nervous energy. Then the news broke. 2 major nations had gone to war, the kind of sudden eruption that sends shockwaves through every market on the planet. Gold futures spiked 5% in the first 10 minutes, then 6, then 7. The trading floor erupted, analysts shouting numbers, someone knocking over a coffee mug. Nobody noticed. Victoria was staring at her screen like she was watching physics break. But I was not done. I told the team to hold. Gold was going to climb to 12% before it peaked. Not 11, not 13, 12. Victoria looked at me like I had told her I could predict the weather. Gold hit 12%. Then it stopped. Then it reversed. The trading floor went absolutely silent. My team sold at the peak, locked in the profits, and pivoted to a short position. By the time the dust settled, GoldPoint had netted $4.5 billion in a single day, more than the firm had earned in the previous 3 years combined. Victoria walked into my office, closed the door, and sat down across from me. She was quiet for a long time. "I underestimated you." She removed her glasses and set them on the desk. "The bet is settled. From this point forward, I defer to your judgment on every major position. I value your analysis," I said. "Keep pushing back when you disagree. A leader who only hears agreement becomes blind." She studied me for a moment, surprised. Then she nodded, and something shifted between us. Not affection, respect. The real kind. The kind that only forms when 2 capable people stop competing and start collaborating. 2 days later, I made another call. Oil futures, short position, 10% drop, full leverage. Victoria did not argue this time. She just nodded. Oil dropped exactly 10%. GoldPoint netted another $5 billion. The investment world in Riverside City was now talking about GoldPoint like it had been touched by something supernatural. The firm that had been a mid-tier player 2 weeks ago was the most feared name in the market. Diana and Marcus heard about the trades too. They did not know I was behind them, but they knew Hannah worked at GoldPoint. They showed up at her apartment with gifts and rehearsed smiles, asking her to introduce them to the mystery genius. Hannah told them no, firmly, clearly, and without explanation. That same week, Hannah invited me to dinner, a thank you for saving her from Roger. Grace came along. We had barely ordered when a man appeared at our table uninvited. Derek, the son of one of the city's biggest investors. He had been pursuing Hannah obsessively for months, showing up wherever she went, inserting himself into her plans, refusing to hear the word no. Grace leaned over. "That is the stalker I warned you about," she whispered. "Would you mind playing her boyfriend for the evening?" Derek sat down without being asked and immediately started establishing dominance. He bragged about his family's firm, Summit Investment Group, and announced his annual income. Then he looked at me and asked what I did for a living. "Investments," he laughed. Asked how much. "About 300 or 400 million a year." He called me a liar. Said no one in the city making that kind of money had escaped his notice. He insisted Hannah was being scammed. Hannah's hand hit the table. "He is my boyfriend. Leave." Derek kept pressing. Demanded to know the name of my company. I told him. GoldPoint Investment Group. The color left his face. He pulled out his phone, made a call, and when the answer came back confirming that GoldPoint had indeed made over $4 billion in the past week, he stared at me with an expression caught between shock and denial. He left without apologizing. The next morning, Emily called me in tears. Her parents had shown up at her apartment. Emily had built her career from nothing. Fitness influencer, content creator, business partner. She earned her own money and asked nothing from anyone. But her parents saw her differently. To them, she was an asset to be leveraged. They had arranged a marriage. an older man, wealthy, twice divorced, with 3 children. They had already accepted $3 million in exchange for their daughter's future. Emily refused, told them she was a person, not property, that she could earn her own living. Her father told her she had no choice. The money was already accepted. She would comply, or they would force her. I drove over immediately. Emily's parents looked at me and saw what they always saw in men: a potential buyer or a potential obstacle. I told them I would pay $15 million to sever their relationship with Emily permanently. A signed contract, witnessed and recorded, cutting all ties. They agreed immediately. Then, 5 minutes later, they tried to raise the price. Said 15 was not enough for a lifetime without a daughter. Demanded more. I called Flora. Flora arrived with 4 of her people. She walked into the room, looked at Emily's parents, and asked them one question. Were they going to honor the contract they signed, or were they going to find out why her name carried weight in this city? They signed. The contract included a clause neither of them had bothered to read: full refund plus penalty for any breach. Flora's lawyer had drafted it. They left with nothing except a legally binding promise to stay away from their daughter for the rest of their lives. Emily stood in the doorway after they were gone, arms wrapped around herself, shaking. Why would you do this? Because nobody should have to buy their freedom from their own family, I said. And because you earned the right to live your own life a long time ago. She wiped her eyes, straightened her shoulders, and told me that from that day forward, whatever I needed, she was there. Not because of the money, because I had treated her like a person when her own blood had not. That evening, I sat in the study and looked out at the city lights. In the span of a few weeks, I had built an investment empire, earned billions, freed a friend from a nightmare, and earned the loyalty of people who saw me for who I actually was. Diana had told me I was nothing without her. The irony was that everything I had become, everything worth becoming, started the moment she let me go. Hannah's birthday party was supposed to be a quiet evening, a private room at Flora's lounge, a handful of friends, good food, and a night where she could feel appreciated. Diana and Marcus had other plans. They had spent the week obsessing over the mysterious genius behind Gold Point's trades. They still did not know it was me. All they knew was that Hannah worked there and that this genius had made billions. If they could get an introduction, they believed they could ride that wave to generational wealth. Hannah had already turned them down flat, so they changed strategy: shower her with generosity at the birthday party, then use the goodwill to wear her down. They arrived early. Marcus presented a compact car, nice enough to impress, modest enough to seem like a gift between siblings rather than a bribe. Diana wrapped it in a bow and delivered it with the kind of smile that only appears when someone wants something they are not willing to ask for directly. Before the wrapping paper hit the floor, Marcus leaned in and started talking about Gold Point again. Said this was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Offered money, a cut of whatever profits came from the partnership. Hannah looked her sister in the eye. "You are wasting your time." Diana pushed harder, asked why Hannah was being so difficult, why she was choosing a stranger's loyalty over her own sister. Hannah did not blink. "The person you are looking for would never agree to work with you, ever." Then I walked in. Marcus saw me first. His lip curled. He nudged Diana and muttered something about the delivery driver crashing a party he was not invited to. Diana looked me over with the same expression she always had: contempt layered on pity, polished to look like concern. Marcus announced to the room that I was Diana's useless ex-husband, that everything since the divorce, the car, the gym, the spending, was theater, loans and borrowed money, and a man too proud to admit he had nothing. I did not respond. I walked to Hannah, set a small envelope on the table, and said happy birthday. She opened it. Inside were the keys and full ownership papers for a brand new top-spec BMW, paid in full. The room went quiet. Hannah's friends looked at the keys, looked at me, and looked at the compact car Diana had brought. The contrast did not need to be spoken. Diana's face tightened. Marcus stepped forward, already building his next accusation. Hannah stood up. "He is the one." Her voice was clear enough for every person in the room to hear. "He is the owner of Gold Point Investment Group. Every trade, every billion, every headline, it was all him." Diana laughed, said that was the most ridiculous lie she had ever heard, that she had been married to me for 7 years, that she knew exactly what I was, and that no amount of acting could change the facts. Marcus backed her up. Hannah pulled up Gold Point's public trading record on her phone and held it up. The numbers right there. Billions in verified profits, my name listed as sole owner. Diana swatted the phone away, said it was fake, said they had manufactured the screenshots, said she would believe it when she saw proof that even she could not deny. The door opened. Walter walked in, the patriarch of Summit Investment Group, one of the wealthiest men in Riverside City, a man whose name made boardrooms go quiet and whose handshake could make or break a career. Behind him was Derek, his son, the same Derek who had stalked Hannah for months, the same one who had challenged me at dinner and stormed off when reality did not match his assumptions. He was standing behind his father with his head down, looking like a man on his way to face sentencing. Walter walked directly to me. He extended his hand and introduced himself formally. Then he apologized, not casually, not with the deflection of someone going through the motions, but genuinely. He said his son had behaved disgracefully, that the disrespect Derek had shown me was inexcusable, and that he had come in person because a phone call was not enough. Derek stepped forward and echoed it, said he had been arrogant and blind. Then Walter turned to Marcus and Diana. His expression changed. He looked at Marcus, his own employee, a man who worked at Summit under Walter's authority, and asked him if he truly did not recognize the owner of Gold Point Investment Group, the man who had just executed the most profitable trades in the city's history, standing right in front of him. Marcus stammered. Diana went pale. Walter told them both they were finished. Not just at Summit, in the entire investment industry. He said anyone who could not recognize talent standing 3 feet away had no place in the field. He fired Marcus on the spot and said he would make sure every firm in the city knew why. Diana started to shake. Everything she had built her post-divorce life on, Marcus's career, his connections, his money, was collapsing in real time. Flora leaned against the bar with her arms crossed. She had arrived minutes earlier, watching the scene unfold with the quiet amusement of someone who had seen this exact kind of reckoning play out 1,000 times before. Diana turned to me. The contempt was gone. The pity was gone. In their place was something raw and desperate. She said she understood now, that she had been wrong, that the divorce was a mistake. She asked if I could forgive her, asked if we could start over. She said she still had feelings for me, that she would do anything, that she would never hurt me again. The room was dead silent. Every person in it was watching. Hannah, Grace, Emily, Flora. I looked at Diana for a long time. I looked at the woman who had told me I suffocated her, who had laughed when Marcus said no one would ever want me, who had walked away from 7 years without a single backward glance. She was crying now, standing in the middle of a birthday party she had crashed with an agenda, tears running down her face, begging a man she had thrown away to take her back. I felt something I did not expect. Not anger, not satisfaction, not even pity. Clarity. You made the right choice, I said. If you had not walked away, I would never have found this life. I would never have met the people standing in this room. I would still be on the back of a scooter, delivering food in the rain, believing that what we had was all I deserved. She opened her mouth to respond. I think I deserve better. 4 words. No venom, no triumph. Just the truth, spoken by a man who finally believed it. Diana stared at me. Then her face crumbled, and she turned and walked out of the room. Marcus followed, head down, pockets empty, career in ruins. The door closed behind them. Sorry about the scene. I turned to the room. This is Hannah's night. Let us get back to it. The tension broke. Someone clapped. Then everyone clapped. Hannah was standing near the table, with her hand pressed over her mouth, eyes bright, trying hard not to cry. Grace handed her a drink and told her to breathe. Flora raised her glass from across the room and nodded at me. A silent acknowledgement from one person who understood power to another. The rest of the evening was everything a birthday should be. Good food, loud laughter, people who cared about each other sharing a night none of them would forget. Hannah opened her presents. Her friends toasted her. Someone put on music, and for a few hours, that private room felt like the safest, warmest place in the world. I stepped outside at some point, stood on the balcony, and let the night air settle over me. The system chimed one final time. A new reward, restoration. My body returned to its peak condition, as if I had shed a decade of wear in an instant. I looked at my hands, felt the energy in my limbs, drew a breath that filled my lungs completely for the first time in years. I leaned against the railing and watched the lights of Riverside City spread out below me like a circuit board. A few weeks ago, I had been standing on a dark sidewalk with nothing, listening to a system I did not understand offer me a deal I could not refuse. Now, I had more money than I could spend, a company that moved markets, friends who chose me when they had every reason not to, and a life that felt, for the first time, like it actually belonged to me. Diana had told me I was nothing without her. She was half right. Without her, I had become everything.